Hey, Patty.
Hi.
All right. I think that we're rolling everywhere we need to be rolling right now. Let's see. We're going live. Woo. Let me hang on. Hey, live on the Facebook side. We're recording on Zoom. And what do you know? We're even making it happen. And we're streaming into the Watch Get a Clue is the name of my YouTube channel. We're streaming live. Welcome to another installment of Get a Clue in 52. By now, you know the deal. Every week at 8 p.m. Pacific, I read a tip from the book. There's 52 tips in here, 5 categories. Tonight is tip number 25 overall. It's tip number 3 in the networking section. Keeping my voice down a little bit. I'm in a new environment. I'm on the East Coast right now. It's 11 p.m. I'm in Atlanta at a really, really, really amazing, well, a little bit north of Atlanta, like the like Kennesaw Mountain area. And it's an Airbnb. It's like a mansion. There's like 4 floors, and I'm here with my son, and we're playing. He's here to play baseball the rest of the summer. His varsity baseball season ended last week, and we took the red eye out Thursday night. I'm sorry, got here Friday. A couple of the games were rained out this weekend, but here we are. We're settled in. It's an exciting rest of the summer for us, and I'm excited to get through Get a Clue in 52 tonight, per normal. Hello, Charlie is joining us. Hello, Patty on the Zoom side. Hello to anybody that's out there on the Facebook side. If you want to join via Zoom, it's very easy. It's just www.tinyurl.com/get a clue, GETAKLU. And so, 5 categories. We've already gone through the communication section. We went through the marketing section, and we're in the networking section. Tip number 3 in networking, but tip number 25 overall. So it's 8:02 p.m. Pacific time, 11:02 Eastern. Let's go ahead and get into it without any puffery, without any ado. I forget the comedian who asked one time. I think it was Robert Klein who asked, "What is ado, and why shouldn't there be any further of it?" I think it was Robert Klein that, without any further ado. All right, here we go. Okay, so tip in the when we got into the networking section, not to be too cute or anything, but tip number 1 is get an elevator pitch. If you only have the amount of time that it takes to ride up and down an elevator, can you quickly and succinctly generate interest in somebody else for what you do? Can you quickly tell somebody what you do, why you do it better or different, what problem you solve, what type of person you solve it for, and in the span of an elevator ride? Now, tip number 1. But tip number 2 was to repeat tip number 1. And the point that I'm making is we shouldn't just have one elevator pitch. We should really have command of all of the different problems that we solve, and all of our competitive advantages and all of our ideal clients. And then, as I'm going to get into tonight, when we do a good enough job paying attention to who we're talking to, we'll be able to put together the right pitch at the right time to and for the right person, right? If we just memorize one pitch and that's all we do all the time, that's better than nothing. Be clear about that. It's better than nothing. But if that's all we've got, we're going to be selling ourselves short. So I want to give you some tips that help enhance things a little bit. So that brings us to tip number 3, which is page 69. If you're following along in the second version of Get a Clue in 52, of course, last year we did this every Sunday night with the first version, but I like the second version better for a number of reasons. One of which is that there's page numbers. I digress. All right, you guys ready? Patty, Charlie, you guys ready? Here we go, word for word. Tip number 3, learn and master active, is that right? Active marketing skills. That's a typo. I can't believe it. We found a typo in the second edition. That should be listening skills. Oh my God, that is glaring mistake. Tip number 3 at the top. Learn and master active marketing skills. That's a mistake. I can't believe it. I'm a little embarrassed. That word right there should be listening skills. So having said that, let's go. I'm going to read word for word now. Improve your listening by always seeking more information to listen to. When someone is talking about themselves or their career/business, Be ready to ask probing questions, qualifying questions, clarifying questions, or creative/hypothetical questions for the purpose of creating more stuff for you to listen to. One of the most common remarks I receive in my client testimonials is that I took the time to really get to know the people I work with. Everyone will say they are all about helping others, but will anyone actually take the time to listen to their prospects deeply and strategically? Preparing great questions is critical to show you really care through your ability and willingness to listen. Again, more on the power of questions is coming in tip number 7. So for now, get ready by using the notes section to brainstorm and draft some questions you can ask in networking situations that will give you more stuff to listen to. Be creative, be authentic, be curious, genuinely curious, and eager to listen. Right, that's it. That's the tip. So we're asking, number one, we're asking you to listen. Number two, we're asking you to get creative and thoughtful and sincere about questions you can ask that will give you more stuff to listen to. Now, if we add this to tips 1 and 2, then instead of just coming out with a robotically memorized elevator pitch, the more stuff I listen to, the more I can think on my feet and pull out different ingredients of my promises, competitive advantages, value that I bring to the marketplace, my menu, right? And I can speak more directly to what I'm hearing coming out of the other person's mouth. It's not always the case. I mean, for me, I kind of feel like I'm lucky a little bit because communication is at the center of everything that I do. So I believe I can help everybody. So all I got to do is listen long enough and I'll hear a communication-based problem that I could say, well, are you getting help with that? Who helps you with that? Who holds you accountable? Who strategizes? Where do you get your ideas from? Do you have a coach? Ultimately, I'm able to ask questions like that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over or ask you guys to open up your microphone, Patty and Charlie. And let's see what questions you might have, what comments you might have, but we're building. Remember, the networking section's a fun one because each tip really loops in and ties in and makes the previous ones better than they were alone. So have an elevator pitch was tip number 1. Repeat rule number 1, or repeat tip number 1 was tip number 2, is have more than one elevator pitch. Like have greater command of all the things that you could do for all the people you could do it for and all the reasons that you do it better or different than anyone else. Now get out there and start asking really good questions so you got really good stuff to listen to, so that when you decide among all the problems you solve, which one do you want to talk about now? Among all the people that you help, which type of person do you want to talk about now? Among all of the competitive advantages that you have, which one do you think would be a good one to share with this person, right? So I want everybody to be conversational, authentic, genuine, rather than stiff, robotic, overly pre-rehearsed, etc. That's what we're getting at in tip number 3, especially as it attaches to, it extends, or complements tips number 1 and 2. All right, there we go. Patty, Charlie, do you guys have anything that you want to say or add or share tonight? And thank you, by the way, for joining, as always.
Nothing really comes to mind right now, so maybe Charlie's got something.
Any questions, comments? I mean, part of it is.
I did like the thought about asking qualifying questions, because sometimes in a networking group, if you did that, at least I know if I did that, it probably would have saved me time spending it with people that, are never going to ever want to get coached.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Like, let me comment on that a little bit real quick. First of all, there's qualifying questions, but what we hear about a lot in sales trainings are pre-qualifying questions, right? So let me get to the latter part of that first. Specifically to pre-qualifying, that we talk about everybody that I preach that 100% of the people that we come into contact with will either be a 1, a 2, or a 3. Very simply put, a 1 is a buyer. They're ready to go. They have no concerns holding them back. They're ready to go. They're like, I've got my hand right here. They've got credit card in hand. They're ready to go. Okay. A 2 is a potential buyer. They have at least one, if not more, concerns holding them back. They know that there may be a good idea or there may be value in buying, but there's still at least one, if not more, concerns holding back. And a 3 is a non-buyer. They're never going to buy, right? And with coaching, that's it's a unique service, right? Coaching. Some people don't understand it. And I think you have to understand it before you would want to buy it, right? But that's been proven throughout time is most people are more likely to buy something that they can interact with or try risk-free. It's called trialability as an attribute of a new idea. I digress. But so pre-qualifying is the term that we hear in sales lingo, in sales trainings about pre-qualifying the buyer. When I just talk about qualifying, not pre-qualifying, but just qualifying, what I mean by is like literally qualifying. So if somebody says, if I'm in a networking event, right? Patty, let's say that you're in real estate. So, hey, Patty, what do you do?
No, I sell real estate.
Residential or commercial?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Both.
okay. That's a qualifying question. Does that make sense? So let me take a little bit of time on the front end of this, the difference between qualifying and pre-qualifying. Pre-qualifying, when I'm pre-qualifying, that's really sales, right? Before I even get there, right? I want to qualify. I want to ask qualifying questions so I have a better idea of what I might even talk to somebody about. What I need to know more before. Here's my rule of thumb. And by the way, we're in networking. We're not in sales. We're in networking. So networking is this corpus of activity that. Hey, Alejandra, how are you? Are you coming on, Alejandra? Coming on board. It's nice to see you again after. Oh man, I can't wait to ask her some questions about Airbnb. But hang on a second.
Hi, hello. How are you? Good evening, everyone. Hi.
Hi. Hey, listen, I'm going to jump you into the conversation in a second. Let me finish up what I was talking about with Patty. We're talking about the difference between pre-qualifying and qualifying, right? So pre-qualifying is prior to specific intent to sell, right? Well, qualifying is to figure out if I've got a prospect or not, right? So remember the chronology of John Doe. We don't know them at all. Then we know we've got some information on them. So they go from John Doe to a lead. Mm-hmm. And then when they're a lead, that means that we've somehow let them know what we do, what we have available, what we have to offer. And if they're still in the conversation, they become a prospect. So I think a qualifying questions, those are the ones that I'm asking while I'm networking to figure out if I'm going to move this person from lead to prospect.
I see.
So a pre-qualifying question happens after they're a prospect.
Okay.
Right. But a qualifying question, just to, I'm making this up tonight, right? Just to help us out in our conversation. A qualifying question is going to help me move somebody from lead to prospect, but a pre-qualifying question is going to help me move somebody from prospect to client.
Okay.
Is that a fair frame? And semantics aside, these are just words, right? But right. So let me go ahead and
but what I'm hearing you say is that the qualifying question is really just to learn more about them. Like you asked me about real estate, am I commercial or is it residential?
Yeah, qualifying question. I'll give you more. You just say, hey, I say, Patty, what do you do? You say, I'm in real estate. Okay, that doesn't tell me enough.
Right.
Hey, did you just get into real estate or have you had a long career? Right. Are you
what designations do you hold?
Are you on an island as an agent, or are you building a team? Do you have buyers agents beneath you? Are you a broker or just an agent? Do you plan on getting a broker's license? All of these questions. Do you hear these questions just off if I'm in real estate? Now I want to know, how long have you been in real estate, commercial or residential, solo or with a team? Do you have a broker? Now if I'm asking these questions and somebody goes, God, Jeff, these are really good questions. You seem to know a lot about real estate. Are you in real estate also? No. I coach real estate agents to become brokers, because when you're a broker, you control your own destiny, way more than when you got to hang your license someplace else.
Right.
And I'm going to now that elevator pitch is speaking directly to the person that I was just asking all these qualifying questions to, rather than something stiff and robotic that I memorized that I'm just going to share with everyone. Right.
Yeah. I like how you put it controlling your own destiny, because that speaks to a lot of people's desires.
Yeah, well, the thing is, this is right. Remember, tip number 2 is repeat tip number 1, which is keep on working on elevator pitches. Make sure that I spend a lot of time thinking about who is my target, what problems do they have, and how do I speak to the listening? How do I let them know that I know what their problem is?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
It's only at a certain amount of time.
nice. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful contribution. So Alejandra, we are in Get a Clue in 52. You've got the first edition of the book. I came out with the second edition just at the end of last year, and we've reordered the tips, we've reordered the sections, we've cleaned up some of the typos. Although I found a big typo tonight. We're in tip number 3 in the networking section, tip number 25 overall, and tonight's tip is to learn and master active listening skills. And the primary way to be a good listener is to ask great questions, so you got good stuff to listen to. The more we listen to what other people are saying, the better and more targeted our elevator pitch can be. And that's why tips number 1 and 2 in this section are to not only develop an elevator pitch, but to develop more than one. Like, be very clear about all the people that you can help, all the problems that you solve, and all of the competitive advantages that differentiate you from competition. If you have all of that at your disposal, like a backpack where there's just ingredients in a backpack, or a quiver if there were arrows. When you go out networking and you talk to people and you get good at listening because you've gotten good at asking questions, because you know what you want to know about people, once they've shared that information with you, then you could go, oh, and fire a more direct, a firmer arrow at a bigger target, because that target got big because of your listening, if that makes sense. And I don't like necessarily the word target. We're not going out and hunting people, but networking, let's be honest, it is hunting for opportunity. It's looking for people that we know, like, trust, people that we believe in, people that we admire, people that can make us look good if we introduce them to others, people that we know can help people that we love and will look good to, on and on and on. Networking is a big, 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 big game. And it's too bad I only have 10 tips in the book. But anyway, welcome back. It's great to see you. Do you have any comments on how much butt you're kicking with your Airbnb project?
Oh, hi, hello everyone. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's an honor to see you guys again. And so real quick about what you're saying about networking. You're absolutely right. And you mentioned something very important. It's not about hunting the person, but it's how we can connect them. And most of the time when I see people, when I talk to people, I'm trying to say, how can I connect this person to this? That was my setup, my computer setup, because that was my camera setup. Because many times I see that later on the harvesting of the networking comes back. So I truly believe in networking and connecting people. And actually, I did one today where I'll be going to 4 different military installations. And I thought of a person in the next month. And I thought of a person who will benefit from connecting to, like, the Major General's spouse. So I had a conversation with her and she's like, yeah, thank you so much. So because I know there's fruition in that. Airbnb, wow, where do I start? I'm moving to Japan in 2 months.
What?
Yes, I am moving to Japan in about 2 months, and the Airbnb is blossoming. I sold my property that had the Airbnb, and then the idea was to buy properties, create Airbnbs, and sell them, and all of that. But then I got stuck in the middle. Colorado house market is growing crazily expensive. So I've been outbid over and over again. So at one point I talked to the universe. I mean, I don't have a religion or nothing. I just call it universe. I talked to the universe and I said, okay, I give up. I've been doing all this. Show me the way. When I say show me the way, I'm not lying. The next day, I saw the advertisement for Yokota Air Force Base, Japan. I submitted the application, they approved me and they selected me. So the whole 6 months process, I'm living in 2 months. I was able to negotiate the apartment that I'm renting now. It will be subleased to be an Airbnb.
Wow.
I'll be coming back to Colorado every year. I will continue with my pursuit of entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
as I walk with my career with the Air Force, and I'm always taking the time to see how I can contribute and what I can learn from others like you. And sometimes I jump in, or sometimes because of everything that I'm doing, sometimes the time is very different. But yes, I will pop in once in a while, just whenever I can, because I mean I believe in what you teach, and I believe in
Thank
what
you.
every one of you contribute to the whole group. And yeah, so that's the update. I'm going to
Well,
Japan.
that's super exciting.
Yes,
I know that I follow your posts, and I know that your son must be very proud and super excited for all of the activity. And you're setting a
yes.
good example for him that you're not resting on laurels. You're constantly learning. You're staying involved. You're
Mm,
super active. You're entrepreneurial. You're taking
yeah,
chances. But I know your background, so I know that you're very thorough and you protect yourself as much as you can. That's probably one of
yeah.
your competitive advantages as an investor, is how well you know the
Mhm.
numbers, how you research the numbers.
Right, right. And on that note, with the numbers, yeah, I do have an opportunity to invest with the numbers and buy another property. But what the previous Airbnb has taught me when it came to finances, I was doing well. And this time I'm going to start from the bottom. And that is okay. That is okay. Because I learned valuable lessons with the previous Airbnb, the previous property. And now with this one, I'm going to start from the bottom and safer. I say safer because that's my philosophy as an investor. A lot of people have different philosophies as investors. Some can be aggressive, but mostly because my why is my kiddo and my grandkids and my great great grandkids and my great 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 grandkids. I want to leave a legacy for them, and I don't want to just blur it. I can buy a sports car once in a while, but I want to leave some something for them.
Well, listen, your energy is a welcome source of like, I don't know, it's like a breath of fresh air tonight. So thank you so much for being on board.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any questions or comments. Is there anything that I could do from a coaching perspective for anybody? I'm done reading tonight's tip. Now we're just discussing it. We're talking about the art of listening, or the skill. What is a skill? A skill is something we can get better at, but most people think they're good at listening because they can hear. Not the case. There's a lot of barriers to effective listening, and there's a different tips on that in different contexts. But this tip tonight, tip number 3, is I'm encouraging people to master active listening skills, and usually that involves coming up with really good questions to have good stuff to listen to. Any comments, questions? Charlie, you've been a little bit quiet this evening. You're just waiting there like a sniper waiting for your Klubi snack, it seems. But do you have any comments or questions tonight, Charlie? Anybody, actually? Anybody have any comments or questions? Charlie, you're on mute if you're trying to open up. Well, here's a good one. I got one. Charlie, can you hear me? You're on mute. You got to unmute.
Charlie, we can't hear you.
He lost. Charlie lost. Maybe he lost the screen. Maybe he had too many windows open. Anyway, while we're waiting for Charlie, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you, Charlie. Here it is. Here's the Klubi snack for tonight. Listening is the pay of paying attention. Listening is the pay of paying attention. It's work. It's effort. Hearing is easy, but listening is effort. But anyway, that's the Klubi snack. Listening is the pay of paying attention. And that's appropriate for tonight. We want to master active listening skills. Charlie, I don't know what's happening, if you're ever going to find your mute button. He's doing sign language now. But Alejandra, Patty, do you guys have anything else while we're waiting for Charlie? And Charlie, we're going to do a little countdown here, and we're not going to wait forever. Alejandra, go ahead.
One of my questions will be that when it comes to providing elevator speech to someone and listening, I heard before that we need to find something that is compatible with the other person, something that we can identify to build that. I find that sometimes there's that possibility and sometimes there's not. When we listen to the person and they say, yeah, I went to a trip at this place, or I went to this other place. And so what parts of the listening when somebody's talking to us is more of I think the whole story, the whole comment, the whole conversation from the other person is worth to listen to. But what are some of the key elements that we need to focus on their story? When I say key elements, I said when they speak about their hobbies, so we can connect with them. When they speak about their business, so we can connect with that.
Yeah.
When they intend to, it's it depends on the conversation, because not everybody's going to talk about kids and family.
No, you're bringing up a great point. I have a lot of things that I want to feed back to you on this. Okay. First of all, in no particular order, let me say this: patience is a virtue. Okay. We know time is money, but we also know that patience is a virtue. So a lot of people get into a networking situation and their mindset is, I'm here networking. I need to meet as many people as I can. I need to get as many business cards as I can. I need as many people here to know what I do as possible. And they're like bull in a china shop, right? So that is a numbers game, and that could be inauthentic, right? So that type of approach may not be totally effective, or sometimes it's like commission breath, and it's aggressive, or it's right. So number one, I would say be patient. What I mean by that is the business opportunity, whether or not they're a prospect or a lead, whether or not they might buy from me, whether or not they could use what I do, whether or not they might want to invest with me or rent from me or network with me, or that may not reveal itself in the first 10 seconds. It may take 2 minutes, 10 minutes before you really figure it out. And stay patient, because ultimately it will come about. But if you're incapable of talking about family, talking about other things other than what do you do, there's networking organizations or social organizations that I've been involved with where it's frowned upon to ask that question: what do you do? Right? It's part of the culture where if you ask that question, you're almost kicked out, so to speak, right? What do you do? Like, where they force you to say, like, hey, other questions like, have you always lived in San Diego, or did you grow up somewhere else? Did you have brothers and sisters? Asking about other things. What brings you here tonight? Instead of what do you do, right? But my point here is be patient, right? We can talk. You can do small talk. You can get to know somebody other than what they do professionally, but ultimately you will get to know what they're doing professionally. But if you won't tolerate a get to know you conversation unless I get to find out what you do professionally, that's going to hurt you, I think, in networking. There's another thing that I wanted to say. The other thing that I wanted to say is that later on in the book, the seventh tip in the networking section, I go over very specific questions that I encourage people to memorize or master, right? There's way more than 7, but the core 7 are they're questions that I want to be able to ask somebody, but they're also questions I want to be able to answer if I'm asked them. So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much, right? But I'll go deeper on this when we get to tip number 7, but questions like, I won't say, what do you do? I'll say, what's the greatest thing you could promise somebody? Right? I won't say, what do you do? I might say, why do people buy from you instead of your competition? Right? I won't say, what do you do? I might say, what do people get when they work with you? I won't say, what do you do? I might say, how do you make people feel when they buy from you? Talk to me about some of the greatest testimonials you've ever gotten. If I had the perfect referral for you, how would I get them in touch with you? Or if somebody needed what you do, how can I position them to learn more about you? What are 3 questions I need to ask somebody in order to know if they're a good introduction for you? Do you hear how these questions are coming out, Alejandra? Right? So I can go in greater depth, hopefully even all the way from, where are you going? China? No, you're going Japan.
I am going to Japan. Yes,
Yeah.
and you guys are welcome to visit. Yes, I'm going to Japan.
I'm not going to go with you. Well, I don't know what time it is in Japan when we're at 8 p.m. Pacific on a Sunday night, but hopefully you continue to join us, and we'll go into greater depth on those questions I want people to master when they get out there networking. And then, there's 7 core questions I'd want you to master, and then I'd want you to continually work to be creative about having unlimited number of questions you could ask somebody, so you keep on gathering good info about them. Is that a fair response to what you brought up, Alejandra? Thank you. All right. So you guys, we're in Get a Clue in 52. This is tip number 25 overall, tip number 3 in the networking section. We're having a pretty good conversation. It's 8:30 p.m. Pacific, but it is 11:30 on the East Coast, which is where I'm coming from you tonight. And Charlie found a way to unmute. So Charlie, what do you got as far as a commentary is concerned?
Yeah, it was just a stupid little setting that got knocked off. Welcome back again, Alejandro. Good to see you. Coach Jeff, as a networker, you're always getting around to be speaking to numerous people at networking events.
Mm-hmm.
And it is only by asking questions that you actually know who you can connect to who. But then, you brought some pretty good highlights out, good points out when you were summing up with Patty and also with Alejandro, is by the ones that you asked, like, what is it that you do for other people, or how do you make them feel? Because obviously, people get to know, he's the connector. But then they obviously wanting to speak to me so that I can connect them to someone. So I've got to tailor my questions. And sometimes if I get the right answers or get the conversation going, there might be someone in that room that I could point over to you and see the gentleman in the blue cap over there, go and have a chat to him. He might be able to help you. And also, when it comes to the coaching, right? Many entrepreneurs or people who are in business, whichever maturity level they are, they're needing a coach of one sort or the other. And it's by probing into those questions as well, then I know, okay, this one needs this type of coaching to get their business or to render a better service. And then now I can connect them to Coach Jeff, or connect them to another coach, or maybe a life coach, or maybe even to Patty, to really identify your passion, etc. So it is very much important to be asking the right questions and probing and really getting to know the person first. Mm-hmm. And what actually drives them. But then, as you know, I pick up where some of the previous tips tie into maybe even the tip we're speaking to. By asking some of these questions, part of the communication comes in, filtering the barriers, etc. But most importantly, the non-verbal conversation, because some people tend to be reacting differently to different questions that you ask them.
Yeah, so tonight's tip is about listening. And the idea, it's not a tip about questions. It's just that questions happen to be the best way, in my opinion, to listen to more. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. So on some level, this tip is not new. I'm just rephrasing it, reframing it, putting it in a context of the other 9 tips, etc. But the power of questions will be its own tip, not just in the network section, but in other sections as well, especially when it comes to accountability, right? We talked about that already.
But as you mentioned, it's by listening to what's being said from the very first, where the conversation starts, and you listen attentively, you now know what is the next question you're going to ask. What do you need to probe for? What information do you need? So that you can listen actively to what you can add value to them, or maybe, like in my case, who I can connect them to. What is it? And probe deeper. Who's this person? What do you do? What service do you render? Who do you render it to? Where do you need help, etc.? And then listening to that, you will pick up, oh, this person is probably not too good in sales because their sales are not coming up pretty well. So now you know, okay, now I need to connect you to someone who can help you with your sales as a sales coach or a marketing coach, or anyone sector or aspect that you need assistance in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes people don't know. If you say, well, what hurts or what problems are you having? People don't know, or they're not ready in a networking situation to be vulnerable, tell the truth. So, again, there's a lot of strategy and a lot of opportunity in coming up with good questions, but it's mostly because you're going to be listening to the answers before you start speaking about who you are, what you do, etc. So bottom line is, the more I listen to, the smarter I am once I start talking. Very simply put. All right.
Absolutely.
We are doing Get a Clue in 52. This is tip number 3 in the networking section, number 25 overall. I want to thank Patty, Charlie, and Alejandra for joining me this week. Thanks to those of you that are on the Zoom side or watching the recording or the live stream on my YouTube channel, Watch Get a Clue. I want to encourage more of you, if you're watching a recording of this, to come on the Zoom side and interact live with us. It's really a fun part of my week to come on board Sunday night and see if anybody has any comments or questions regarding the tips or any open-ended coaching questions that I can help out with. But I'm ready to go ahead and ask for last call as we wrap up tonight's installment of Get a Clue in 52. So any final comments or questions before we dismiss for this evening? Go ahead, Alejandra.
Other than thank you very much again for a good session, Coach Jeff.
Thank you, Charlie. Alejandra, what do you have?
Thank you for providing that eye-opening aha moment. When you said asking the right questions, asking questions and listening to those answers, then we'll be more connected or more prepared for the person. And by all means, the way that I see sometimes people, I don't approach them in a way that I think, how can I benefit from them? I definitely not don't do that. I often think, how can I help this person? What can I do to help this person? So when you mention asking the right questions is going to help us also get to know the person and get to know their work, their ideal, their goals, and then from there, then we go from there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So thank you. Good point.
Yeah, I hope you're on board with us again when we get into tip number 7 and brainstorm all these different types of questions, because I get creative with it. I have fun with it. And I'm prepared. I know part of this, by the way, let me finish, Charlie. It kind of goes back to what you were saying too. It's not just asking questions. It's not just listening. It also, the foundational part of it is getting really, really, really clear on who we are and what we do. The totality of who we are, the totality of what we do, getting really comfortable and having command, because what prevents people from asking good questions, being good listeners, being effective networkers, is they're so damn nervous about what they're going to say if somebody asks them the question, what do you do? And once you get to a point where you're not nervous about that question anymore, now you can really listen to other people. And then you're really going to have a better answer to that question because you've listened to people. So the foundation of this is commanding with extreme comfort what you do, why you do it better or different than others, who you do it for, and why people, those things. What problems do I solve? Who do I solve them for? Why do I solve them better or different than other people? And I command that. Now I'll go any networking environment, because anybody asks me anything, I know what my answers are going to be. And I'll be even smarter if I, have thought about all of the problems I solve, all of the people I serve, all of the advantages. Because if I serve 5 different people, 5 different problems, and 5 different advantages, I have 15 things in my quiver that I could pull out, and I'll pull the right ones out if I've done a good job listening. That's all there is to it. Very, 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 very simply put. The more I listen, the smarter I will be when I start talking. That's the simplest I could put it. So thanks again for coming on board, you guys. It warms my heart. I will say I love you very, very, very much for coming on board, especially those of you that are here every single week. I just can't thank you enough for that. Alejandro, a breath of fresh air to see you again. Congratulations on your exciting, exciting ventures coming up.
Thank you.
And let me go ahead and just say, any other comments or questions for tonight's installment of Get a Clue in 52? Anything else before we wrap up for tonight? All right, Patty, you ready to seal it with a kiss? All right, here we go. All right. Wait. Oh. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Have a great week. Have a great week, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.